All right, so we're live, and it is Wednesday, December 9th in 2020. Let me tilt this mic back a little bit. Hopefully that sound is pretty good there. Wanted to talk a little bit about our current state, what's going on, right? These are trying times for people. Businesses are closing, small businesses. Um, from what I heard, I don't know if it's completely accurate. I'll have to research it, but I did hear that across the nation, 800 businesses, small businesses, are closing every day. 800 small businesses every day are closing. So it's a big number. It's a big number. As for what's going on, I'm a constitutionalist. I believe in the U.S. Constitution, especially the First Amendment. I don't believe that it can be chopped up into separate parts. I believe that it is as a whole, and the same with our Constitution. It doesn't grant us rights, even though most people think it does. It merely recognizes the rights that are inherent in us by virtue of divine creation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, right? That all are created equal. All. And that have been endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights: life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. These are being stripped away in the name of safety. There was a founding father. It goes back and forth. I don't know if it was Ben Franklin or John Adams, but it fails me right now, sorry. But they talk about those who surrender freedom, right, for security deserve neither. Now, look, I'm not one of these. I don't promote unwise behavior. When I go out, my family and I, we wear masks. We practice our what they would call social distancing. We use wisdom, but we try not to live in fear. And that's where we're at right now, whether it's our country, whether it's our state. You have people promoting for years, promoting a type of socialism. And I'll come out right now and say that I'm completely against it. And I'll let you know why. I'm going to read this post that I actually wrote a few months ago. My ancestors, my grandmother Helen's family, were kulaks. They were Germans from Russia, and they were invited to come and settle and farm the land there in what is now Ukraine, just north of the Black Sea. And Stalin's communists came for them. The Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, a federal socialist state in northeastern Eurasia, couldn't abide them. So if you believe in socialism and in communism, please listen. They couldn't abide them, so they tried to exterminate them, along with over 7 million others in Ukraine near the Black Sea. From one village alone, Klein Liebenthal, that my ancestors helped build, I have the names of those executed, sent to the Gulag system, re-educated and then executed, murdered by the state. Names like Anton Embury, Emma Embury, Johann Embury II. 4 were named Kaspar. There was a Clara, Lydia, Magdalena. I'll keep going. Maria, Matilda, Peter. 3 were named Rochus, Rufinius, Valerie, Wilhelmina. These are a few of the people who suffered, my ancestors, my relatives, under socialism and under communism. I know that's only 20 people, right? 20 people from the same village. 20 people from the same family. But this is only a few. Not the ones who were starved or whose names were trampled out of history when the churches were burned and the villages were destroyed. This doesn't list the people who died from eating poisoned stalks of wheat that were purposely left behind by the communists, knowing that starving people, children, would eat them. Listen closely to the cries of the babies starving and the pleas of the farmers as their skulls were caved in by rifles and boots of socialists. These were cousins of my grandmother's grandfather. His name was Isidore, and he and many other Germans from Russia came to America in the 1890s. Had they stayed, they would have met a similar fate, and I would not be here. My children would not be here. Entire villages nearly died out, and show trials were held against mothers who had eaten their infants in desperation because there was no food. And when they would come in and they would take the wheat so that the state could have it, so they could distribute it to all, they would leave nothing but the stalks, and they would pour poison on the stalks, knowing that people would eat them out of desperation and die. Between 1930 and the beginning of 1937, the Russian Germans, my people, my ancestors, lost approximately 300,000 to 350,000 members, 1/4 of their entire group. 1 out of every 4 was exterminated through deliberate starvation, deportation, or outright executed and shot. Khrushchev admitted that the collectivization famine was an act of murder on the part of the government. And in 1990, the Central Committee of the Communist Party of Ukraine confessed that the famine had been deliberately created by the Soviet leadership. The kulaks, the farmers, these were people who owned farms. This is personal for me. And anytime someone cries out for justice and socialism in the same breath, I just turn them off, because the two are mutually exclusive. They cannot coexist. And don't dare speak to me of the benefits of communism or socialism. And I don't mean certain aspects. I'm not talking about helping to make sure people have enough. I'm not talking about equality. I'm talking about redistribution of wealth at the end of a gun. I'm talking about collectivization in the hands of the state. I'm not talking about communities helping to care for one another. I'm talking about socialism and communism. I've had enough with hearing all of this. The blood of my family and my ancestors cries out too, like many who have gone before us. And it's more than enough. So sell that murderous ideology somewhere else. In a future video, I'd like to list the names, 72 reasons why I don't believe in socialism or communism. 72 reasons. All members of my family. All names. All proven. All records that survived. When you preach that type of ideology, understand that it comes at the end of a gun, that it comes at the end of somebody else being murdered or poisoned or taken off for re-education. Understand that. It's no surprise, because I believe what it was, 30% of college students don't even know anything about the Holocaust. 6 million Jews murdered. 6 million. By the Nazis, by the fascists, National Socialists, which is different than the federal socialists that I'm talking about. But still, just a abhorrent and horrible, evil ideology, because it strips everybody of their humanity. And I'll tell you this, you think it makes everybody equal? It doesn't. It puts power in the hand of a despot, of a tyrant. It puts power in the hands of those that are corrupt, that will do nothing for you. And they can't abide people being poor in socialism. This is one of those things that people don't seem to learn from history. If you're poor, if you make them look bad, if you by your life and by them taking away everything that you have, and you have nothing left, it's easier for them to destroy you than it is to sit there and acknowledge that it didn't work. 20 names from one village, 72 names in all. Got a list. I pray, God, that you have this in your heart, that instead of preaching a godless ideology that suppresses everybody and it's murderous and evil in its intent, do something yourself for others. Be the hands and feet of Jesus. Do something in your community. By all means, love and forgive. This was an interesting journey for me when I learned about these relatives of mine, when I started learning the names and I started reading what happened to them. They've made a few short films, I think, about the Holodomor, right? The Great Hunger, the famine that killed 7 million people. That was Stalin. Uncle Joe, as Franklin Delano Roosevelt used to call him. Uncle Joe, Joseph Stalin, right? Responsible for more deaths than the Nazis in World War II. It's an evil ideology. Over 100 million deaths are what we have. That's the harvest that we have, this bitter and corrupt and evil, murderous harvest that we have from communism and socialism. 100 million deaths in the 20th century. Let's stop preaching that. Let's stop advocating for that. There are better ways to do things. You want to do away with capitalism? We don't actually live in a truly capitalist society anyway. It's not what they would call like laissez-faire, and I'm not an expert on this, but I do know that crony and corporatist capitalism isn't the same thing that most of you guys are thinking of. Think of those 20 names. It's 20 names. Anton, Emma, Johann Jr., 4 Kaspars, Clara, Lydia, Magdalena, Maria, Matilda, Peter, 3 who were named Rokas, Rufinius, Valerie, and Wilhelmina. All right. I know it's a little bit grim. I'll have a better message on later, hopefully. But I wanted to share that. I think it's important. I think it's important that people know. Again, I'm a constitutionalist. I believe in our constitutional rights. I believe in equality. I believe in love and forgiveness and mercy, and in making sure the next person has enough. But in order to do that, we do too. and you don't change and save a society, it's not social justice to starve people out, to keep people locked up in their homes. It's not social justice to get rid of businesses and to squeeze them out. 35 to 40% of small businesses in California are gone. And out of those, from what I've read, 30% of that number, not total, but of that number, are gone permanently. Think about it. Use wisdom. Respect your leaders, but understand when your constitutional rights and your human rights, your civil rights, the divine right you have by virtue of being a creation of God, those are being violated. Speak out. Know your rights. Walk in love, walk in forgiveness, walk in the fruit of the Spirit, and love, of joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. But we're not doormats. Remember those 20 names. God bless you guys. You take care. Bye-bye.